Which is why again 26 attempt aspirants is a blessing, because you have that time to make mistakes. If you are a person who does not go back and look at his or her mistakes, you cannot clear the exam at all. Some of us are giving 26 attempt. It is advisable that you fix 2 hours of your day, maybe every 2 days, because every day is not possible, every 2 days, to revise what you've done the previous 2 days. The mistake is that you assume that you should know every question of the 100, but it is not like that at all. You just need to know 20 to 30 very clearly, which is your static portion, polity, etc., etc., and the remaining comes through deduction of your PYQs. Nothing about your past baggage matters actually on the exam day. Your institute or alma mater, anything, it doesn't matter. It's a good equalizer on the day of the
Yep.
exam. You should give your best that day, and nothing else matters.
We are launching burning issues. This will cover, so I'll give you the access to this by the end of the session. Just let me like quickly walk you through how it works. We are basically covering most important topic for the month from all aspect of GSP paper. So right now you might be treating one current affairs as a standing like one piece of content. You're not, maybe you're approaching from GS paper one point of view too, but in 2 or 3 pages, one most important issues on that particular day, or few most important issues of that particular month, you will be covering from almost GS paper one point of view, two, three, four, and if you combine all four, then you can also wrap up your essay. So this is to make sure that you, if you're a beginner, you are reaching a very veteran or advanced level preparation very fast. Something that you'll reach after like 2, 3 months or even after 1 or 2 attempts. We don't want that to happen to you. We want to make sure you reach a very advanced stage of preparation. You have a holistic understanding, like divergent thinking kind of a thing uh, for each topic very fast, right? These are just the pages of the magazine. This is freely available. This also contains prelim tidbits. So you can see like what, who, why. Prelims requires a lot of factual knowledge, a lot of data points, a lot of concepts that you'll need to remember. And they're like non-negotiable. You'll have to have them and recall during the paper, right? So all the important things are covered in the magazine. I'll give you the access by the end of the webinar. For now, I'll just suggest all of you, to have a pen and paper so that you have running notes. Uh, Turn up your camera so that you have like full focus on the session. Ishani is here. She's ranked 79. She has been with us earlier in a Raw and Real episode. That was great one. A lot of people liked the insights. Uh, she's someone who I think, okay, first of all, she had a sticky note on the desk saying she'll be a part of FC 99. It happened. So there is a lot of belief system that goes behind preparing, and we'll try to unpack that. I think you've been in IRS just before this attempt, right? Like 2020, yeah. And a lot of things unpacked after you couldn't get through your first prelims. And I think a lot of, like, you did almost everything by the book. So a lot of topper talks and Ye magazine, Wo magazine, and then all the things, but it still didn't come around. And then you sat down and you kind of, I think you kind of break down the whole paper like this, right? Can
Yes.
everyone see the screen? Yeah, so it's like this is something you don't see in any ranker. This is probably first time I keep on talking to every year, a lot of rankers almost every year. This is something I'm seeing all the first time. Like you're sitting down and trying to go very internal is how she also said. Like बाहर बहुत noise है, left, right, center. I mean, I don't know. Like every year, hundreds of ex-aspirants will launch some YouTube channel, random कुछ भी. They'll also like put some toppers face propagating their own program, etc. तो आपका responsibility अभी यही है, that can I go internal? Can I actually be very honest with myself? And the screen is in front of you. She actually, like, this is her own paper. So this is what I was talking about. Like actually breaking down the whole prelims paper, putting up a sticky note on all those 100 questions. What is happening here is that how did I actually approach it? What kind of processing I was doing in my head? Why did I take A, not B, not C, and all those things, right? Um, this is, and like did I get it correct or not? This is her own sticky notes after the exam. You didn't
Mhm.
make it in this prelims, right, Ishani? This one. This is
Uh,
2019, I think.
this is 2020's paper, sir.
2020's paper.
First
And
COVID
yeah,
paper.
correct.
Um,
So,
Mm.
Yeah. So I think we will be trying to like will in this whole conversation we'll try to unpack all the strategies. Will a lot of people here are preparing for 2020. I think the mix is some people like almost 60% are giving for 2026 and few are attempting next year. We'll try to do 1.5 years of a strategy, right?
Mhm.
Thinking in mind like if I'm a beginner, I've never attempted the exam, uh, and trying to bring up your own like anecdotes or your own problems
Mhm.
that from that context. So generally, so I'll also take running notes so that these people, like everyone, anyone who's attending the session, they also have something to
Mhm.
uh, take away. While we are chatting, I'll take up some running notes
Mhm. So taking
so
on
that,
from
yeah,
what you said, I think yes, like we have a mixed bag. We have 26 and 25, but just to understand that this, I have I think given 4 attempts. This is my fourth attempt in which I got rank 79. So I will try to tell you what you should not do and what you should be doing exactly. We'll try to cover up some mistakes I made so that you don't make them. But just you, like Sir said, that you need to go very internal in this exam. We'll always look outside, please give me notes or tell me what to do. But I think a very important part of the exam is that it's a relationship between you and the exam only. And you can control your result, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, and sir, you can moderate and then I'll try to answer questions as in
yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
proceed.
So I hope everyone can see the notes part. Like I'm taking these running notes so that there's something tangible that people can go ahead with. Uh, it's mostly starting with what is the overall timetable
Okay.
if you were starting, let's say, I think May yoga exam,
Mhm.
2026 May.
Mhm.
So how will you go about, did you break down like subject, like still like if this is my first attempt, how do I go about it? Should I like start with prelims, mains, uh,
Mhm.
including like how did you arrive at your own optional? Did you have background? I think Anthro
Yes,
was your
sir.
yeah. So
Mhm.
did you have background in there? And also please give us some context about how much marks you were scoring in these attempts, right? So prelims में कितना था,
Mhm.
comfortable था नहीं था on those things. So
I'll
I'll open
start a
up
little bit
I'll
about.
open up these facets so that you can just go and keep answering. I'll keep taking the running notes.
Okay. So I had started, my first attempt was 2020 and I did not clear the prelims. I had begun preparing for 2020 and 2019. And for all those who are very new, there are three levels to the exam: prelims, mains, and the interview. So when you begin your preparation, especially for 2026 aspirants, you will be preparing mains and prelims almost similarly. And the mains, the most important paper is your optional, ethics, and essay, because a lot of the GS that is left over gets covered in prelims also. And by some chance, if you haven't finished main syllabus, you can cover that in the coming 3 months after prelims. But let's
Yeah.
talk about your time right now until Jan 2026. If you all can make note, Jan 2026 until May 2026, you will be only revising for prelims. And
Okay.
until Jan 2026, we will be trying to cover as much as we can for prelims and mains together. Starting from November 2024 to November 2025, November, December, we will try to finish our syllabus and then this revision process will increase.
Okay.
Um, this is for 2026. We'll move to 2025 also a bit later. So for those giving 2026, in the coming 2-3 months, you have a lot of time. The advantage of 2026 is that you are not in a hassle to finish the syllabus. You don't have to rush through things. You can take some time to choose your optional, to choose your ethics paper, to figure your strategy, to understand, improve things like handwriting, and you have the time to make mistakes. That's what I'm trying to say. So first 2-3 months, what I did, because I also had a year and little more than a year and a half, so I started with NCRTs. I started with very basic NCRTs. I chose to do from class 6 until 12th or 10th, and I
Okay.
would read them at ease, at my own interest, and underline the important notes. And I took 2 to 3, almost about 2 months for all of them. So subjects like history, geography, even economics and environment, science and technology. So I just wanted to give a good, a fresh revision of what I had left after my graduation. I took that much time. And
Okay.
now there will be a book list online. I could also share mine, but there is a book list of the basic books which everyone studies for the
Mm.
exam.
Yeah.
And that we begin a little bit after 1.5 months. And those are the books such as Lakshmikant, Spectrum, for example. And those become the most important books for your preparation. And that I call it a little more deeper preparation I did after first and few months. So maybe November to December, if you're giving 2026 attempt, you can take it up as casual reading of NCRTs. 3 months after this, you can begin that. And then begin like a study of the bigger books such as Lakshmikant, Modern History, for example.
Okay.
So this is how I would suggest, but this is only the prelims portion.
Okay.
Now, there are, if you see the syllabus, prelim syllabus is not very broadly underlined. We generally base it on the PYQs or the prelims papers that have come, but these are called static subjects. These are subjects in which we can study from textbooks in which there will be repeated questions. If you have been gone through the 2024 prelims question paper, we had a question on fundamental rights, on money bill, for example. Now, these are static subjects. You cannot get these questions wrong. But
Yeah.
the catch is that in the prelims paper, the static syllabus is only about 30 questions come from this. But you must understand that if you go wrong in these questions, then it's very hard to clear the cutoff. But now we move on to dynamic part of the paper, which is also called current affairs. A subset of that includes subjects like science and technology or international organization, current affairs, which we prepare through current affairs magazines, like the ones that you shared prior, like the burning issue.
Yeah.
So I would read the newspapers and I would read the current affairs magazines. And I would section my day in a way that I started the first few months with subjects. I would do polity or history or environment or geography or economics. Now,
Okay.
these five subjects which I mentioned, I'll repeat them: polity, history, geography, environment, and economics. These are some static subjects,
Yeah.
meaning that we can, in many ways, predict the pattern of questions which are coming from PYQs. So I would study these in the first half of the day or most of the day, and then at maybe in the evenings or depending on your schedule, I would look at current affairs. I would take a look at the magazines and I would take a look at the newspapers also.
Mm.
This is how broadly prelims we're talking about. Now, as you enter deeper into the preparation, you will take a look at the main syllabus and you will realize that it is written very clearly. It starts with GS1, GS2, GS3, and GS4.
Mm.
A lot of the topics of GS papers are overlapping with prelims. I will give you a little example. GS2 का जो पेपर है उसके first few topics हैं parliament, constitution, all of this. Now this we may have studied in our polity prelims part also.
Yeah.
But there is a very large chunk of GS2 which is preceding after that. If you all have the time, just please open a tab of the GS2 syllabus and type GS2 syllabus UPSC, and you will understand that the latter part contains topics like health, education, governance, and international organizations. So, a lot of this we don't cover in prelims per se because these are mains heavy topics. Now, for those who are doing 2026 attempt, it's a very good opportunity to also cover the mains heavy topics, which includes, like I mentioned, governance topic, for example. So, broadly, हम ये करेंगे कि हम prelims की preparation शुरू करेंगे, static वाला syllabus. We will get that in control for the first 2-3 months. And as we get into ease of the examination, we are thorough with newspaper, we're doing current affairs, then we can jump into the non-prelims part of the exam, which is the
Yeah.
mains heavy component. So this is how I went about it. Of course, a lot of people do them immediately together. If you are comfortable, you can go ahead. But I preferred to ease into the exam a little calmly, a little slowly, because you have to maintain the stamina and you don't want to get overwhelmed by too much syllabus and by too many topics. So
Yeah.
I will quickly tell you what are the main specific topics of each paper so that we can sort of take you into this conversation easily.
Yeah.
So GS1 का जो पेपर है उसमें society का portion होता है which is not very prelims heavy. So GS1 society we will keep it aside. GS2, governance and international relations, will keep it aside. And in GS3, internal security, disaster management, and a little bit of science and tech and agriculture.
Okay.
If you open the syllabus, it will become quite clear to you. So these are mains heavy topics, not very helpful in prelims point of view. And
Okay.
GS4 entirely is a mains heavy paper. So as I mentioned, we will start few months of NCRTs. Then we will do basic prelims books, Lakshmikant, modern history. And as you're comfortable with the examination, maybe in the month of February or March, you can start off with GS 1, 2, 3, 4 main specific topics alone. Perhaps we'll get into detail month-wise or weekly if you want to, but this is the broad strategy. Now,
Yeah.
another thing you need to note is there is a priority in which we prepare for mains. Prelims हमारा side by side chalega. Maybe you can divide the day into three components. First half of the day, I would do prelims alone, which is our static subjects. The second half of the day, I would do mains. And third half, I would do current affairs.
Okay.
So in the first half of the day, I would do prelims static. Second half of the day, I would either do GS mains or optional. And third half, I would take a current affairs magazine and the newspaper and just try to understand what's happening in the news.
Hmm.
Now, this is how I went about it. And the mains preparation, the priority will be when some weeks you can take up GS, you can take up GS 1, 2, 3, 4, but optional should be completed at least 80% by 2025 November. And GS4 also should have been completed by 2025 November. Since you're aiming 2026, if you have a grip of three important papers in mains, ethics, essay, and optional, then you are very close to clearing the mains cutoff. Now, the reason why we are talking a lot about mains now and not prelims is because 2026 advantage is that you can do mains in good detail. Anyways, after 2026 January till May 2026, we are doing only prelims. So in some way, you are evening out both the risks. At this
Yeah.
stage, your most important stage is prelims, no doubt. But if you clear prelims, we have to maximize the rank that we will be getting because that decides your service and your rank finally. So we will have to maximize the score we get in mains. And this is why we take all this buffer time for 2026 attempt to do our mains very well. And we take up subjects like essay, ethics, and optional. We get them into confidence and whatever we can do in GS, we keep doing that on the side. If it is left over, it is 100% doable after you clear prelims in those 3 months for mains
Yeah.
to come.
Yeah.
And this is broadly how I go about it. I hope maybe
Yeah.
you can go back to your notes and then sort of clarify again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But broadly, this is how I went ahead with my preparation.
No, this is great because I think you covered pretty much almost. So I think two, three things that one of the things that I genuinely want to ask is because there's a lot of noise and you have been talking about this even in raw and real. How do
Yeah.
the process of going internal is like how do I because a lot of people will live in FOMO.
Yeah.
वो नहीं पढ़ा ये नहीं पढ़ा and then these things are real,
Yeah.
right?
This is a very
So
real problem in this exam, like I
yeah,
say.
yeah. So how do I find that piece कि नहीं जो मैंने किया है like that's maybe enough. I mean, I'm not saying don't take feedback, right? But how do you end that drama in the head eventually? I should just stick to this process.
It the hard way that I should not have focused too much on the noise outside because I didn't clear my first prelims. See, what I mean by noise is a lot of things. Number one, it includes exam is so competitive. I have so many books to study, so many topper videos to look at. I have so much syllabus to do. I have timetable bhi banana, ye banana. There's a lot of pressure we put because we think everybody outside is doing it. And somehow it is a facade or an impression that if we do all of this, we will clear the exam. But the
Hmm.
exam is, there is no checklist that these 10 things, if you do, you will clear the exam for sure.
Yeah,
Then there wouldn't be an exam where you're ranking. But
yeah.
the point is, internal means if you are a person who does not go back and look at his or her mistakes, you cannot clear the exam at all. Every day, every test that you give, every mock that you give, every mistake you make, you need to understand why did I go wrong in that. It is
Hmm.
not easy to understand your mistakes
Yeah.
immediately because you're just entering the exam. This is where you ask your mentors for help. This is where you ask someone who's cleared the exam for help. Is this the way to think? Did I go wrong in this? So some of the internal examples I could tell you for it. If you look at prelims and you give a mock exam and you got something wrong, you
Okay.
should understand, did I make a mistake because I wasn't aware of the article? Did I not revise properly? Did I not read the question correctly? There are so many mistakes we make by not reading the not in the question. The question will say which of this is not in the something something, and we will choose the opposite of the question. So
Yeah.
what helped me, like what sir showed on the beginning, the checklist, I knew that attempt was not very good for me. And as soon as I came from the exam, I wrote down my whole thought process. I saw this, I felt tensed, and I jumped into some other topic. And every time I wrote prelims after, I would go back to this. This idea was actually given to me by some another mentor of mine who said you should write down your entire psyche. This
Yeah.
is what it means by going internal. You cannot expect someone on the outside to give you a handbook on this is right and this is wrong. It is not that easy. But the
Yeah.
exam becomes very much easy if you have a good control over your mistakes, and you should be humble enough to understand that I made a mistake and how do I go back to square one and get to where I need to go. And that process takes time, which is why again 26 attempt aspirants is a blessing because you have that time to make mistakes. And when
Yep.
I say avoid noise, it means things like collecting too many books or on a particular topic and not making short notes and taking too much content outside. You need to understand what you should not study in the exam. And it's very easy for me to say because I've spent those years and I know what we should not study. But a shortcut to understanding what you should not study is to look at PYQs. PYQs give you a very good understanding of the priority of important topics. They will tell you that these are important topics. This is the concept you need to understand. And maybe other topics of your books you can revise little later. I'll give you an example to remove the noise around you. There are plenty of books on history in the market, but stick to one or two books only and do not think that something else is in that book because the question paper is not made on the books that you have actually. It's made on your
Hmm.
deductive skills. So you need to have one or two books alone and you cull it. You do not feel you shouldn't feel that I have something more left over because knowledge is very infinite. The exam has morphed so much since it started because knowledge is democratized to everybody now. So keep one or two books alone, and you will always hear everyone who's cleared the exam who say that do not take more sources because that can really ruin your attempt. So if you look at the PYQs for polity, you will understand that important topics are fundamental rights, preamble, DPSP, parliament. Apart from this, they ask a lot of questions, but this comes every year. So it's a very good hint to understand that this is a very important topic you should study, and all of this is found in very static and simple books also. And then you keep revising. Every year, perhaps there'll be a new book which comes into the market or some new content, but you take a look at it. If you think it's important, go ahead, but don't feel that you need to mug up or fill everything into your minds. So you need to have some amount of confidence, and I'm going to stop here and I will keep moving on. The
Yeah.
mantra is PYQs and repeated revisions, testing, feedback. This is
Yeah.
how we will prepare, and we go internal.
Yeah. What we have done at Civilsdaily to tackle the whole PYQ, because that's also like a very time-taking thing. Like you have to do like 10, 12 years of this thing. We have identified some 200 plus odd micro themes. And these themes, they just keep repeating. It's not like identical question will come. Of course, the language will change. The design of question or options will change. I mean, we are talking about UPSC, right? But at the end of the day, there are certain themes backed by PYQ, and they are PYQ based in a manner of speaking, that if you do that, you'll be safely, you can safely predict, and there will be some threshold of marks that you'll be scoring in your exam because आपको इतना confidence आ चुका है उन topics में, and you can always expect. So even though the exam is extremely unpredictable, like there are certain aspect of it that you can be pretty much sure about, right? I want to move on to like your especially overall revision strategy. Then we can break down to prelims and mains prep go deep there, but for next 10, 15 minutes. But generally, were you revising like, was it like every week I have whatever I cover, I'll revise, or like जब exam पास में आ रहा है या फिर कोई mock test है तब आप कर रहे हो? What was the
So
like
I will
overall
tell you some
process?
of the issues in the exam. Revision is the most important part of the exam. The more you revise in the exam, the better you will sleep a day before the exam also. But in some of the attempts where I did not do well, my revision was a very big problem because I had too much information. I couldn't go back to everything one day before the exam or a few weeks before the exam. So you always feel like you miss out. Especially in UPSC, each exam is so timed that the time pressure makes it very hard to recall plethora of information. So the point of revision is for you to have just one or two words associated with every topic, which you will use to deduce in prelims and with which you will use to make answers in mains. So, revision means you are not rereading every page and you are not making notes of everything from the parent textbook, but revision means you will only look at important things repeatedly. If it
Hmm.
is prelims revision, you will only look at PYQ based syllabus. If it is mains, you will read only things which you will write in the exam. We can again go back to, we can again talk about this in detail. But my point is that revision is most important. When it came to successful prelims attempts, I was revising my static syllabus a lot, which means I kept going back to my Lakshmikant polity, my modern history book, and it is actually tattered now because of the times I revised it so much. And it
Yeah.
is very boring to re-revise the same book, but it will be the most helpful strategy for you. And so I would revise, of course, when I would write a mock, it was a good timetable for me to revise the same chapters. And as the exam was nearing, I would only revise static syllabus. So 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the exam, I would only revise each subject per day. Polity one day, environment one day, geography one day. That's how I would go about it. Um, Another thing is, since some of us are giving 26 attempt, it is advisable that you fix 2 hours of your day, maybe every 2 days, because every day is not possible, every 2 days to revise what you've done the previous 2 days. And that includes just glimpsing the papers of prelims, mains, optional, GS4, or even current affairs. So even if you glimpse, you will have good word association and something or the other will strike you in the exam. So it is a very ambitious goal to do it every 2 days, but you can try to make it a habit and it'll help you the most in the exam.
Yeah.
We can go into detail of revision
Yeah.
maybe when we talk about each stage.
I think revision is one of those things जिसका value आपको या तो either you realize on the day of exam or after the exam, right? It's like you don't realize the value of revision while doing it or before the exam. So that's why you ended up realizing. That's why you were saying कि prelims where you realize the value of it, right?
Mhm.
All right, I think we can jump into prelims prep and you can switch the context between 2025 also. These some
Hmm.
people have exam next year and majority people have in 2026. And because you had your own journey of tackling prelims, इस एग्जाम का भी अलग ही फियर बना हुआ है अब तो. For last 3 years UPSC has gone like here and there everywhere, right?
Hmm.
So I'll start with actually the second last point, which is fear of prelims and managing exam pressure. When you were stalled at this stage in the first attempt, and it's not like you just gave an attempt at, you actually prepared properly.
Hmm.
You went by the book, जो बोल रहे हैं
Hmm.
टॉपर्स में वो कर लेती हूँ, then still
Hmm.
UPSC will have its way, right?
Hmm.
So, like, how did you gather the whole thing? No, no, like, I should switch like, basically, first of all, how did you figure out the gaps?
Hmm.
One way was ki you went ahead and, actually articulated your own psyche
Yeah.
on those sticky notes.
Yeah.
Was that enough? Is that enough? Can we rely all of these, like, we have 200 people, can they just go today and then write down, articulate their own psyche and then figure out their own blind spot and then fix them? Is that
So
enough for a
in
start?
my attempt, since I had failed, it was a very important failure for me because if I'd not failed, my succeeding prelims would have also been disasters. So there is a fear of prelims because we think that the exam is changing, it's very unpredictable, but it is really not that unpredictable because, like I said, there are 30 to 40 questions which will clinch you the rank and they will always be repeated. So I had given a 23 attempt and it was not a very easy paper, but I fished out the most comfortable topics in that paper, which was polity, history, and I was trying my best to not get those wrong. So for
Yeah.
those who have fear of prelims, the mistake is that you assume that you should know every question of the 100, but it is not like that at all. You just need to know 20 to 30 very clearly, which is your static portion, polity, etc., etc., and the remaining comes through deduction of your PYQs. So there is no need to have the fear of prelims at all because it is an uncontrollable for everybody writing with you. So I could internalize this. So like I said, like internalizing your psyche is one thing everybody should do. I did it in the most raw way in my real prelims, but I think everybody giving mocks can do it at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah.
very reliable strategy. Every mock you give, even if it's a 50 question mock or a 100 question mock, go back to each question and say, okay, I got this wrong. Was it because of not knowing the topic? Or did I not know which keyword to focus on? Was it not clear to me? You have to go back. You have to be that clear as to what are the steps which made you arrive to a particular option. You cannot do just guesswork out of the four options. Now, that is something we don't want to do in prelims because that will
Yeah.
fetch us an error. And so again, like I was saying, there are some mistakes we make. We just if one more thing, if we get a question right, that's also very important. What did
Yeah.
I do to get this question right? Was it by luck? Was it just because I saw this somewhere and मैंने तुक्का मार दिया? We also, it's not good to rely on luck or probability based on this in the real exam. So you need to understand what are the steps, what is the thinking I took to reach to this particular option, and there
Yeah.
should be good credible understanding in your own mind why I did this. So I would suggest that if you erase the fear of prelims at least a little bit, you need to internalize each mock properly, and then
Hmm.
it's completely doable. Like I
Yeah.
repeated, PYQs are important, revision of static is important, give a mock, take a feedback. This is the only thing in your control. Beyond this, it's tough for everybody, and nobody will know answers to all 100. It is
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
not possible at all.
Yeah. And I mean, there was a dip in the cutoff also that clearly says like you don't need to attempt, you know, that
Everything.
attempting of 80 plus and 85 plus to करना ही है वो सब तो
Yeah,
I mean, those
yeah.
days are gone now pretty
There are
much.
no rules also that
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
much you have to do.
Yep. So yeah, I think that works. So I mean, everyone here, I would highly suggest like the next mock you give, or maybe if you're not giving mocks, if you're not enrolled anywhere, just pick up some prelims paper last year, right? Go through it, आप attempt करो, and then figure out why are you getting certain questions wrong? Why did you take this instead of that? And what was going on in your head? That was the
Mhm.
exercise which I showed. She also did in the beginning. The thing that I showed, that is exact. This is the exercise. I
Mhm.
want to, you talked about the guesswork, and even if you get a question right, like, I mean, I know myself, I'll start celebrating, say, yeah, अच्छा हो गया. But eventually, I don't know, did I get it pure luck or like what, right? So I think that's also a very tricky part to not just internalize and, your wrong ones, but also the correct ones. So, but
Mhm.
then there is a whole plethora of, extreme options, हटा दो और ये कर दो, डेटा है तो सही होता है या गलत होता
Oh.
है,
Mhm.
एलिमिनेशन टेक्निक है लाइक पूरा, हाउ
Mhm.
मच इज लाइक कितना रिलाई करना है, ये सब वैलिडिटी है हैक्स की, आई मीन
So,
लाइक
like I did say, we will know clearly 20 to 30 questions. Now, there are 60 questions, 60 to 40 that we don't know that will stump us and we will not be able to do in our first iteration. So, in them, I'm not sure if these are not shortcuts exactly. These are not shortcuts that, okay, if I take this, this has to be right. These are, we look at the PYQs and we analyze how the statements have been made. So, I did not rely on hacks. I wouldn't call them shortcuts. I would probably call them deductive skills because go back to PYQs and see each topic, how has the examiner set the particular sentence. It is obvious that something which has absolutely zero extreme probability might be wrong. But again, that is in context of the topic. And this is why we study current affairs, we study prelims, we look at newspapers to get a general understanding of the world around us, and that is used to deduce. So there are four options, and we will not know which is right or wrong. This sort of hack, so to say, will be applied only in the questions we don't know any answer to. We try to rank least probable answer to most probable answer. One of
Yeah.
them, by instinct, we will know through our study that this is not possible at all, and we eliminate that. And then you go step by step, and then we will be able to arrive at the particular answer. So I think a lot that helped me was understanding this cannot be the answer because I've not studied this, or this is not possible at all. In this topic, this cannot happen. It's easier for me to say now, but if you look at every question in 2023, 2024, it was quite easy to ascertain can this be or can this not be. What happens is in the exam, we start rethinking our own logic. We say, oh, this can't be true, this can't be right. We get so confused on a particular question, we don't arrive at any deduction at all. At some point, we need to understand examiner has probably hidden something in this question and we have to find it. And we can apply basic logic and basic preparation skills to deduce this. Although it may not be right to say that all data is wrong, all this is wrong, all that is
Yeah,
wrong.
that's why I'm asking because there are a lot of
That
courses going
may
like
not
this.
be.
Yeah,
But there are some people who help you in how to deduce particular questions. That could
yeah,
be helpful.
yeah,
They'll also teach you how to prioritize topics or maybe what is probable, not probable. But I think 2026, 2025, you have to look at PYQs and then sort of find a pattern on yourself based on how the examiner has made the sentence. But you cannot look at a topic and say, oh, I'll mark data wrong or I'll mark something wrong always.
You can't just go and say कि elimination लगा दो. It works maybe in the context, and it's not just elimination. It's like you said, it's deduct like you have to
Deduction.
deduce in the context of the question. I think is it like because you have seen a lot of PYQs as an aspirant, it kinds of you're wired to understand that
Yeah.
language after a year. Maybe that
It's
intuition takes over कि
absolutely that.
ये तो
Mhm.
नहीं होएगा.
Yeah.
UPSC का language ऐसा है नहीं and all those things,
Yeah.
right?
It is
So
absolutely that.
repeated exposure है because of UPSC language. And that again brings me to like, how did you go about your own PYQ? कोई अलग से आप notes बना रहे थे? How
Mm.
did you identify, or like, was it just beside your notes itself you were writing कि ये important है? Or was it just in your head, not in the notes or anywhere? Like, how was your PYQ approach?
So my mistake was not doing PYQs in my failed attempt, and I had got a lot of help from my mentors and seniors, especially in this part. So I had the compilation book, which is also in the market now since 1990s until
Yeah,
2023. Every attempt I gave, I had to buy a new book because I had to add the older questions also. So because I didn't want to let go of any PYQs at all.
yeah,
And next to each topic, I would write down the theme. PYQs, if I open polity, I would write fundamental rights, I would write DPSP, I would write preamble, parliament, president, and I would see these are repeated topics, and I would
mm,
start studying from that portion. If we look at geography, Indian geography, rivers is a very important topic, so I would revise from that topic. In 2024, we had a similar question also. So if I would see PYQs, write down the themes and prioritize my revision from that. And this is how I
yeah,
went about the PYQs. Like you said, you have to be very micro in this approach. You have to go deep into it. If you look at modern history, there's always a question on charter acts. And again, this was something a study group and I did together. So that also really helps to have someone with you validating what you're thinking for micro themes.
yeah. And would you like when you have identified these, are you just thinking prelims this time or mains, or like how are you doing this?
So if you look at talking about prelims PYQ, I would look at that alone. And if you go to mains, you repeat the same exercise that if
But that it's going in separate notes altogether, maybe then,
it is
right?
definitely separate
Okay.
because
Okay.
prelims compilation is very different. But for
Yeah.
mains, the polity repeated questions are also very different. Uh, so it's going in different directions.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And what was your frequency of attempting mock test? Like, was it weekly, or was it like, let me finish the whole syllabus once and then I'll get into the mocks? Did you start with mock right after the coaching mocks or etc. available mocks, or पहले PYQ ही करा है आपने? Like, what was
No,
this
no.
frequency?
So since I've written the exam for quite a few years, it's a mixed bag. But how it started off was I would give the NCRTs. I had joined a particular coaching class, and they were giving every bi-weekly test for NCRTs also. So it was a very good exercise for me to follow their timetable. So I would give it bi-weekly, at least in my first few attempts.
Yeah.
And then after that, uh, as and when I finished my bigger textbooks like polity or the environment, I would do it once a month in the first few months. 2026 attempt, you can do a little more gradually. So you can do it once a month perhaps. Until the month of maybe March 2026, you can be a little slow with your syllabus and your tests. And then after that, give it again bi-weekly. And then when you
Okay.
reach November 2025, then you can give a full test for each subject. And
Yeah.
then 2026 Jan onwards, you can do complete papers. The reason I did not jump into full length tests or too many tests in the beginning was because they weren't helping me. I wanted to be someone who could study on my own, re-revise, and then go on to full length tests. But if you feel like you need to have someone watching over you and you want to have a timetable, then please follow the coaching classes timetable itself. That also works for a lot of people.
Yep. Yeah. It sort of keeps you in that cycle of 15 दिन पढ़ा पेपर दिया then feedback लिया and then I think that also works. Is there anything that I've forgotten to ask you about prelims, about your own approach, so that I can put it under your tested approach and everything? One we already know, like you break down the whole PYQ thing, but is there anything else?
I think it was majorly PYQs. It was a lot of repeated revisions. It was a lot of at least unsuccessful or successful attempts. I removed a lot of unnecessary textbooks
Yeah,
and made very short notes on topics. And whatever I
got
had
it.
re-revised, I had revised, I would re-revise it again and again. I gave myself this confidence that what you, even though you've not cleared, it doesn't mean you should change your entire textbook or your study table or your book list. So
Got it. Got it. I think you have covered the note making part. CSAT, were you comfortable with CSAT, or was there a whole another side preparation that had to go?
So first few attempts CSAT, my first attempt I had not prepared for CSAT as much, or but I cleared the cutoff that time.
Okay.
But in after that, my attempts actually 2020, 2021 were also during COVID, unfortunately, and it pushed the exam cycle by 3, 4 months
Yeah.
each. So I had got that buffer, and that's when I did CSAT preparation. I had joined some classes where they would give a refresher on important topics because it's good to revise the formula, etc. And then I would take a look at the PYQs again. I did the papers from 2015 to 2020, 2021, and I tried to keep that in my hands. But when you see a tough CSAT paper, one should not worry because you need to find your confident topics in the paper. If you're okay with ratio proportion, okay with fractions, okay with some type of topic, then try to do those first. And we don't have to do all 80 questions of paper two. We try to maximize our plus, so we can very easily eliminate the top questions that we can't do.
Yeah.
So my strategy was that whatever be the sort of paper, I'll immediately jump into questions which I have practiced more, which I can understand and do in 2 minutes. So this is
Got it.
how it was.
Okay. Cool.
Just another thing, maybe CSAT preparation for 2026 attemptees, you can take a look at these CSAT papers uh, past 2, 3 years and then understand your own how difficult it's for you and where your confidence is at. And you can begin preparation maybe by Jan 2025 if you can, and take each classes a bit lightly. And you
Yeah.
can do chapter wise tests every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then do full tests maybe after November again. This is how I would suggest it because it's a time test. You need to do as many questions correctly in the given time, not all of them. So I think CSAT preparation can continue while you're preparing for GS also.
Yeah. I think that's like a really good, I mean, I don't know, like a litmus test, because I was talking to this ranker. He comes from a really top institute and has done engineering, but still couldn't make through
Hmm.
CSAT. So a lot of times you just assume मैंने engineering किया है, सब सही है, तो सब like हो ही जाएगा.
Yeah,
And
but
then
that's the thing about the exam. Again,
yeah,
nothing about your past baggage matters actually on the exam day. Your institute or alma mater, anything, it doesn't matter. It's a good equalizer on the day of the
yep,
exam. You should give your best that day, and nothing else matters. Um, so don't be overconfident or underconfident
yeah.
in the
Yeah, I
exam.
mean, don't assume that because you have certain background in maths, etc., CSET will come easy. The good litmus test would be just आप एक साल पहले का paper solve कर लो. You just see where you fall, and if you are doing fine, then no need. But if you're on the line or missing the mark, then of course start preparing slightly earlier. Maybe we'll just spend next 7 to 8 minutes on mains, right? Similar things like uh, how was your answer writing strategy, revision, make okay, just you have the topics and just keep taking up the running notes. You can start.
So, like I said, there are some chapters in GS which is only main specific. And for those giving 2026, you will also be doing them side by side. Maybe many of you have joined classes. You will have those notes with you. If you haven't joined classes, there are a lot of coaching class compilations which give you good ready-made material. But
Yeah,
for mains, we always start again with PYQs. There are solved PYQs online, and that becomes your basic body itself. But the job doesn't stop there, because to that specific topic, you will have to add notes from coaching class material, from editorials of the newspapers. You will add graphs. You will look at economic survey. You will look at budgets. For example, so you will add all of this to your GS1, 2, 3, these three. I'm only talking about these three papers for now. So PYQs, it begins with that. And as you join a test series for mains, you will be looking at coaching classes, solution material, and also adding that to your content.
yeah.
So I had built my body of notes step by step like this. I thought I should be able to, I wanted everything handwritten. So I didn't rely on ready-made textbooks or ready-made notebooks in the market. I did that on my own, and I would enrich it every year, in fact, because I cannot have the same content for repeated attempts also. So I would go back to editorials and all of that. Now, this is for GS 1, 2, and 3. Answer writing strategy, how it happens is, if you join a test series, you will have a particular syllabus in mind. You will prepare from coaching class material or from newspapers or from your prelims material. All of this will help you in answer writing. And it is most probable that your first answer will not be a good answer. You will not be able to finish in time. You will have a very slow paper. But if you are not finishing on time and you're not able to write, it's the best first step, because only if you make mistakes like this, if you have friction in the first few attempts, can you write a better answer. I remember I would take at least 3.5 to 4 hours to finish, or it would be very tiring. So it would be very tough to keep stamina for answer writing. But it is, if you keep doing it repeatedly, it's very doable. I did not jump into answer writing immediately, because I did not know where to start writing from. I did not know what's a good answer. But a very good beginning is to look at toppers copies. And when you look at a
Yeah.
topper's copy, you will feel, oh, they are so smart. They already knew what to write. How do I begin? But they've also been through a process. And the papers posted are also one of the best papers also. And we've all begun by having a cornucopia of information step by step, learning it, and then applying it when we write answers. So once you begin your preparation, I think you can begin answer writing maybe in the month of February or March. I had taken this much time to get warm with
This
the
is for 2026 people, right?
yes,
So
yes,
you
yes.
can begin in like after 6 months or probably 4 months of preparation.
Yes, yes. I
Okay.
think you have to feel a little bit at ease with the exam, with the syllabus, with terms, with articles, for example.
Yeah.
And then you can write your own answer, whatever you think the answer structure should be. And then go back to the same topper's copy, and then see how they've written, and then add it to your structure. It's a learning, relearning process. So if there is a topper's copy uploaded for a particular paper, take it up and don't see their answer. Just write your own answer. Take as much time as you can, and then you look at what they've done, and then you will structure yourself accordingly. Subconsciously you will be learning a lot on your own. So this is how I had started answer writing. And as the months proceeded, I would always keep adding notes to that particular topic. I would add either statistics, I would add diagrams, I would add maps or graphs. A lot of this is still working for a good answer. So this is how I filled in the gaps.
Okay. And same thing, like what was your approach to analyze PYQ? Same approach था कि कौन सी recurring themes है जो
Mm-hmm.
आए जा रही है? Like what did you
Yes,
do paper wise?
yes.
Uh,
So I had gone paper wise, and I started with GS3 because it is a very mains heavy paper, and a lot of it does not have overlap very easily in my prelims. So if you look at internal security, for example, each year they ask a topic and it goes in rotation almost. It might be on cybersecurity, it might be on left wing extremism, terrorism, So I went paper wise, and it is very scoring because it is not very current affairs oriented also. It has very basic information, very basic questions. And so that was my strategy for internal security. I changed it a bit for economics. So if you look at economics, there will always be a question on either MSME or industry or on labor, employment, these type of topics which are coming from syllabus. It was very confusing for me to dissect the GS3 economics portion because I did not understand where the questions are coming from. But in many ways, if you carefully look at it, the PYQs will tell you that these are repeated themes. It's mostly about budget making, how to give resources, or about employment, and some themes in the budget that has come of the preceding of the previous year. So it is through PYQs and micro themes through which I had understood which way to proceed, because this is the only thing that we have in our control. And
Yeah.
apart from this, I would supplement it through answer writing tests of coaching classes and make a better answer out of that.
Okay. And what was like when you have attempted a paper, like you have written a mock test, what is your like goal post here? Are you matching your answers to a topper level copy? वो reference point है या फिर coaching के model answer reference point है? Like, did
Hmm.
you had this, like, what are the changes that you'll make to improve? For example, let's say, can you tell me like what was the general marks? I think you were getting like probably 120 marks तो आपके ऐसे sorry ethics वगैरह में आ ही रहे थे या others. But was that like, did it always come easy, or was it like आपके 80 या 90 marks आ रहे हैं then you move to 120? तो वो gap, how
Hmm.
did you fill that gap? Because a lot of people will eventually make the average improvement,
Hmm.
but अभी तो एग्जाम इतना कॉम्पिटेटिव है कि वो एक दो मार्क्स का भी फाइट.
Yeah.
I was just talking to a girl, she missed the list by just 1 marks and she's in reserve list. तो मतलब इतना फाइट है अभी.
Yeah.
तो
Yeah, but a lot of us also share the same
yeah,
mark, and even
yeah.
then, yeah. So there were some papers which I was comfortably getting good scores. Some papers I was absolutely not getting good scores. So that was the reason it was going up and down in many years. I will talk about GS3. So GS3, I did not score as well in my previous attempts, but this attempt I did boost it by a lot. Again, my mistake was not understanding the nature of the of GS3. GS3 is a paper in which you need to write keywords and you have to be very clear about the answer. General way of writing GS1, 2, or 4 will not work in GS3. It has to be pointed graphs, keywords, statistics. It has to be hardcore paper. That effort I had put in GS3. I had got good content from editorials or from economic survey and all of the government sources, and I had supplemented my notes. So I had known my gaps in GS3 from the real exam. A lot of these gaps are not coming from my test series. And that is how my strategy was. But when I would give a particular test, I would, first of all, if I finished the paper in 3 hours, I thought that was the biggest success for me because it itself becomes a very tough part of the exam. So if I finish in 3 hours, if it looks neat enough, if it looks indented clearly, then that is, I would give myself good scores for that. And then I would go back and see if I have answered, if to me I've answered the question properly or not. If they've asked about something, have I written it exactly, immediately? If I have beaten about the bush, I would not give myself marks. So I had my own rubrics to sort of understand the right answer. And then I would clearly see coaching class answers, and then I would add the content. So it is again an iterative process. Coaching class, sorry, the topos copies I didn't see as much after I had gotten my own flow of writing.
Got it. I think बहुत ही same ही है, recursive process है. You
Hmm.
do the same thing, come back and then improve
Yes.
as applied for anything else. Okay, and what was your essay journey? How were you preparing for it throughout? Was it like a sum total of GS preparation वही वहाँ पे use हो रहा है? Did you go separately to prepare those anecdotes या ऐसे start करना है, ऐसे end करना है? Like what was your, and how much were you scoring the essay?
So essay was a sort of make it or break it because I was scoring very well in many attempts and suddenly it dips in different attempts. It was very hard to predict for me what is working, what is not. And generally, I have enjoyed writing, but again, you have to let go of interest in writing, how much you scored in your essays in school, or how much you like to read. Essay paper is very simple in the sense they are checking coherence, they're checking your multidimensional thinking. And this is
Okay.
why today the topics are around philosophy. They will give you a quotation and then they will ask you to write an essay on that. And how many different directions can you think around the topic and argue for it or and against it also? So I had
Yeah.
worked in my good attempts, I had worked on how to build arguments. If it's a philosophical question, I told myself I'll break down the keywords. I will talk about why or what or how the topic is, and then I would try to write examples. So I had a strategy for philosophical essays. I would do so and so. And for non-philosophical, let's say GS essays, I use my GS content, the subtopics of the topic. If it was on education, I would talk about different stakeholders of education, for example. So I had, but essay paper, again, I went back to the PYQs and I went theme by theme. If it's on character, if it is on wisdom, if it is on challenges, there was a topic on ship, there was a topic on so many things. So that's how I went about. But my strategy first was to take the topic and brainstorm it for 15 minutes for at least 3 months, 2, 3 months. I did only that. I did not jump into essay writing, although it works for a lot of people, but I did not do that because the
Yeah.
first 15 minutes decide your topic choice, decide how you will go about the essay, and I went very micromanagement in this because there are 12 different sides to the essay booklet, and I also bifurcated how I would write the anecdote, which part I would talk about, different stakeholders, which dimension I would write. So I went very micromanagement in that. And after few weeks or few months of 15-minute brainstorming, then I started writing the essays. Then test series came about, and I got feedback from a lot of people around me. But a very good strategy a lot of people do is I had shared my essays with those who were not in the UPSC cycle also. So they were able to tell me if it made sense, if it was coherent. Because if you're preparing for UPSC or you're correcting essay papers every day, day in, day out, then you understand much quicker. So those who were not in UPSC cycle saw my essays and then they would point out mistakes. They would say, यहाँ पे flow जा रहा है, and things like that.
Yeah.
Overall, this is how it is. It's a very unpredictable paper, but if you stick to the theme and you're coherent, that works for a good score, at least an average score.
Yeah. I've heard that strategy a lot, like last 2 years, like show it to someone who's not preparing,
Hmm.
uh, so that you have like very unfiltered eyes seeing it कि layman को समझ में आ रहा है.
हाँ,
Um, yeah, I think because we live in this whole UPSC jargonish world कि वो
yeah,
फिर, और a lot of time people have a tendency to go from their optional point of view also, no?
yeah,
And I don't think evaluator comes from a particular background in
yeah.
optional, while checking. So
Hmm.
great. Is there anything that I missed asking you about mains that you want to add?
Hmm. So maybe a bit on the optional, how to
Yeah,
select the optional.
yeah.
So for those giving
I
25,
just have one question before you say, what was your choice of choosing a topic in essay? जो 8 topic आ रहे हैं, like on what parameters or basis? Is it coming, the confidence coming from optional background है तो you will tackle it, या फिर GS में इस पेपर में knowledge ज़्यादा है तो let's say political tilted है तो GS पेपर 2 में आपका बहुत confidence है तो आप वहाँ से, like what are those parameters basis which you are choosing? Is it like philosophical you can tackle because it becomes an open field?
hmm.
You can enter the approach the topic from any point of view then, right?
Yeah, so some of the essays which I approached in the real exam, I thought this I understood immediately on first reading, so I will start writing it. But somehow, even though I was confident for a particular topic, I did not get very good scores in that attempt because I did not do justice. I could not communicate on that topic. So, in a good attempt, I took at least 15-20 minutes to select a topic, even if I did not want to write on that. And I would write what does each word mean? What is the topic truly mean? Like what is the inference of the topic? So I took each topic and I started doing that. And then I realized there were some topics which I did not like at all. I was able to generate more easy points, which could convince the examiner in lesser words that yes, I've answered the topic. So I think I did not go very philosophical in this. I did not go based on optional, not based on confidence, not based on which GS paper can help me, but a bit more on what can I explain in lesser words and clearly to the examiner that this is the right topic. This is how I want to write. I hope
Yeah.
I'm making sense here because
Yeah.
when you start thinking, oh, I like a top, I've heard this quotation before. I know this is the complete quotation. Like there were so many topics like this, we've seen quotations. But if you cannot explain in clear language, in short sentences clearly, then it is absolutely a lost cause. So I think in good attempts, I went to every topic, even if I did not want it, and where I could generate points in lesser words.
Yeah.
This is this was my strategy.
Yeah. I think it itself is a, it's like you're overcoming your own biases real time in the exam, all right?
Yeah.
कि I know I like the topic, but मेरे पास पूरे points नहीं है. No, no, I
Yeah.
don't want to, write this.
Yeah.
Did you do that thing of last page पे, rough page पे, you're charting out the whole essay, four
Yes.
points against thing?
Yes.
That's the approach everyone takes, right? Like,
In fact, like I was saying, it was very micromanagement because I had made boxes of every page, 12 pages. I written, okay, this is how I would write. This is my paragraph numbering. It made more sense to me to write that way. And it was just save more time. So 12 sheets, I knew I would finish the conclusion in this page. I would finish the introduction. And that's how I went about it. Last page, I did all the rough work.
yeah, great. All right, I think we covered. I hope I didn't miss anything. We'll just spend 2-3 minutes. If the folks have any question, let me open up the chat for everyone. Folks, please write in the chat. Please do not write whatever like we have already answered. She has already answered. Anything if we have missed, please write so that she can. I hope you can read, Ishani.
Mhm.
Okay, Ragini is asking Enthro. अगर आप quickly your own approach for Enthro.
Mhm. So in general, I will talk about the optional.
Yeah.
Some quick checks for optional is that you will have to finish preparation for optional by November 2025 so that you can at least do tests and all of that. And it should be an optional where you like the subject, you can stick with it for a few years, and other things like easy to read material, easy to understand, and a lot of things like that. Anthropology, do you want to know? Anthropology as an optional or how to prepare, but I will talk about it both ways. So anthropology is a very diverse optional. It is not only science and biology, it has language, it has
आपका background,
society.
like, Isha, did you have like background in info?
No, sir, not at all.
Okay, so
Very
you
far.
came to it because of like, is there like generic abstract interest था आपको या फिर
Yes, sir,
because
yes,
you
sir.
went full scientific case में number ज़्यादा मिल रहे हैं, topper
No,
seems to
sir,
be getting.
not at all. I think
Okay,
I found out the success rate so and so much later. But again, every
yeah,
optional has its day. One cannot say this is the optional that gets a lot of scores. But so it's a very diverse subject. I saw the syllabus. I immediately know that I can stick with this topic for a very long time, and I want to know more about it. And diving deep into it, I could get a lot of help from teachers and professors. So anthropology is very diverse as an optional. Paper one, paper two. Paper two is Indian centric. Paper one is world specific, concept specific. Um, it's a very good paper. Material is available online, and anthropology, if you don't have a background, it's good to take classes or join somewhere outside to give you a feeler of the courses. And I would suggest you finish paper one. I had done that. Finish paper one by maybe half of it. Maybe you can finish it by maybe next week, next month, next year half, and then move on to paper two until November. So you can do one after the other. That had helped me. And meanwhile, half of each paper, you can take up a particular test. For example, you can club archaeological anthropology and take a test for that, and then physical anthropology and take a test for that. And in anthropology, it's very scoring because physical anthropology and archaeology are good scoring parts for paper one. And paper two, you can write good concepts in many anthropologists. So we can go deeper into anthropology if someone has more specific doubts. But please also keep writing tests, keep revising thinkers, and keep writing good examples. How to start GS? Shall I
let
go on,
me,
sir? Like, seriously, would you like
yeah, let me.
maybe ask questions?
There is a one working professional who is asking, covering NCRT approach, and I think there are a lot of repeated question on NCRT
So just a
also.
small thing, sorry. Anthropology, someone else has asked. Give an intro. I'll just complete a little bit on that.
Yeah,
Those who are so anthropology is study of man, which means it's a very diverse topic. If you have if you want to know more about society, people, language, culture, family, marriage, then this is a subject for you. It has some amount of biology, science component, keywords, key terms. So it has a bit of that. And linguistic anthropology is there. Physical anthropology is about DNA and genetics. So it's about everything absolutely that we do in our own lives. So it's very different from sociology in the fact that sociology talks about society, anthropology talks about culture, about why a particular, the way we think about our own world. I do not know about agriculture, optional, I'm sorry, but perhaps you can take a look at some toppers who've done very well and
Yeah.
take a look at that syllabus and their strategy. They probably would have put a lot of content online.
Yeah.
Sir, would you like to take over?
Yeah. I think there's just a lot of questions about NCRTs.
Mhm.
So I think you can just take, and we'll take one more question after that, and then we can wrap up. Yeah, she said 6 to 12th class, I think you said, right? 6 to 12th class is what you covered. But if you can just quickly tell the way to do NCRTs that you approached. I think you also approached from PYQ point of view first.
Since I had some time, given the 2026 aspirants are there, I had read it. I had just quickly glanced over the boxes, the keywords. History, I had done 6th to 12th and themes also. The old NCRTs, I had not paid as much as I'd paid attention to new NCRTs. Old NCRTs seemed a little more bulky and had political history, and I was not able to finish them. But I did newer NCRTs. And polity was also very helpful. It gives you a good overview of the constitution. So you can, but for geography, NCRTs are very important. 11th and 12th NCRTs, Indian and world, are very important. And there's someone who asked me about note making. It is very tiring to make notes. And is it important? And do I need to make notes from current affairs and from newspapers? So, like I mentioned, note making is not writing the parent content and it is not writing everything word by word. In your final notes for prelims, you should have PYQ based content alone for polity, history, geography, which means you will have basic article numbers, you will have PYQ content. And for mains, you will have statistics, basic structures of answers, and things which you will recall for repeated questions alone. So my note making was a little more iterative. I had chunky notes in the beginning, and as I kept revising, I could cull out information. So at this point, it's very tough to make crisp notes which will last till the day of the exam. But practically, a doable strategy is to start with larger notes which you think is important, and then you start culling out what you don't need till the exam comes.
Yeah. Great. I think I'll just I just want to like so what we have done is layered NCRTs and we have color differentiated them. So if you're reading a paragraph, it will tell you like, is there a PYQ that came from this paragraph, right? Is there some data or facts here? So instead of reading page to page, now you have a lot of contextual information about why you are reading this paragraph. And this is like available. So I'll share the link. Another thing is, I think the micro theme that I was talking about. Uh, can you see the screen? Can everyone see the screen? The Buddha image. Okay, these are the micro themes for GS paper 1. So what we have done is like you don't need to fight the whole PYQ 10 साल का 12 साल का, right? Now you know Bhakti moment and Sufi moment से questions आ ही रहे हैं. This is the theme I cannot skip. This is what Ishani was also talking about कि exam uncertain overall abstract देखोगे तो लगता है, but then there are parts of this exam आप safely predictable बना सकते हो. And these are the micro themes, like हर पेपर का क्वेश्चन है किस साल में आया है क्या है. So I will share this so that आप उतना fight मत मारो, उतना time waste नहीं करो. I think, yeah, it's
Just, I
like
think
if you
I
have any,
have
yeah,
to mention 2025 quickly. Somebody,
yeah,
I saw a message.
yeah, go ahead.
2025, mm, well, of course, you might be at very different levels of the exam as of now, but we are in November now, and I think by January, February, you should have finished your at least one or two readings of prelims, and you can stop your mains by February. Feb to May, it has to be only PYQs and repeated mock tests. And your most important stage of the exam is prelims now. You don't have to worry so much about what you've not done in mains. We can perhaps work on that after prelims. And hopefully some part of it optional should have also been finished by now. We don't continue optional after February. At least I have to finish 60 to 70 percentage of it with tests and a lot of that. So it's still, you can still do very well in the exam. You have good time, but focus on prelims and revise your current affairs for, at least for the previous year. That's what I would suggest.
Great. I think, folks, I've shared the Burning Issue magazine with you, and here is a whole micro-theme ka content. You can find the link in the chat. Please make use of these documents so that your time is saved. NCRTs, micro-themes, PYQ baked, and the Burning Issue magazine, everything is there. We have released for September. It will come monthly, once in a week. Yeah, I think we are done. Is there anything these people are attempting next to next year? Some people are attempting 2025.
Uh,
They're about to go through the same journey. So anything that you would like to say?
Well, of course, I'm thanking everybody for coming to the session and spending this much time in the evening. And I apologize if I'm not able to answer everything, although everybody's questions are very valid. But I promise that as the process comes, you will very much have everything clear. And in hindsight, I can say, oh, I'm very happy. This was great. But I've been through a very, very rigorous phase, just like all of you. It is very uncertain. It is very daunting. You'll hear it's very competitive. The notes are there. You will have a lot of burnout. So we have all been through, but even if toppers had to attempt the exam again, they would still have butterflies because the exam's nature is so and so. And if you ever feel the pressure, just tell yourself that you are writing for a job which has good pressure and good challenges also. So in many ways, it's a good trailer to the sort of life you may have to live, and maybe that will propel you to handle pressure better. So whenever I
Yeah.
would feel stressed, I would say, if I can't take stress now, maybe I will be stressed in the real job. So maybe you can tell yourself that you are getting ready for a bigger purpose in life, and it's very, very doable. So please be confident. Do not think time come hai, syllabus zyada hai, can't do anything, because only your 3 hours of mains and 2 hours of prelims actually matter for success. So I wish you all best of luck, and hopefully we will meet again to clear doubts or something at some other point.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
sir,
Yeah.
for having me.
Yeah. I think it is generally said like the training for civil services starts with the exam itself. So you're right in saying that, like, if you can go through this process, then it's a right start too for the job itself, right? Doesn't come easy. It's very challenging career. I genuinely wish you all the best for your career ahead, for your training, and for the
Thank you, sir.
job, and for any future. Like, we need officers like you who are very well thought through, and right people at the right place is what the bureaucracy needs, right? So thank you so much for finding time again.
Thank you,
And
sir, for having me. Thank you,
yeah, we would
everybody,
love
for
to have
being.
you in future whenever you are available, etc. I hope, folks, everyone who attended, it was a great 1 hour, valuable 1 hour for you. Yeah, great, awesome. Thank you so much, Ishani. We can
Thank you, sir.
wrap it up. Yeah,
Thank
good
you,
night,
sir.
folks.
Good night,
Take care.
everybody.
Bye bye.